Watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA, and as a prompt for our conversation this morning, here's a background report by Ibrahim Belugunda.
The biggest challenge to constant electricity supply in Nigeria is the incessant attacks on electricity installations by vandals, insurgents, bandits, among others. This unpatriotic act has affected Nigerians in a way that can only be imagined. For instance, over a period of 10 years, insurgents and vandals have attacked and destroyed electricity installations in the northeastern part of Nigeria. As of September 2021, the federal government put the cost of vandalized transmission equipment in Maiduguri, the Borno state capital alone, at 1.7 billion naira. Between 2019 and 2024, transmission lines serving Borno, Yobe, and Gombe states suffered repeated terrorist attacks, leading to loss of billions of naira in repairs. In August this year, Bayelsa State experienced a blackout due to vandalization of 13 towers, grounding activities in the state. The latest in the series of such attacks and vandalizing of electricity installations is along Shiroro Kaduna 330 kV lines 1 and 2, which plunged most part of northern Nigeria into total darkness. Estimate shows that 117, 122 kV stroke 330 electricity towers have been vandalized nationwide between January 2022 to February 2024, costing about 12.8 billion naira to repairs of the 117 towers. The story is almost the same in all parts of Nigeria, with bandits, insurgents, or vandals carrying out such economic sabotage on Nigeria and its people. What is responsible for such attacks? How can electrical installations be protected? Are those caught in the act made to face the law? These and more will be some of the questions guests on Good Morning Nigeria will find answers to on the program.
Thank you, Ibrahim, for that background report. And we already have in our studio our guests who are going to speak today on the vandalization of electricity. Okay, so we already have in the studio Mr. Emmanuel Ojukwu, retired police commissioner. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning. And we also have seated here in the studio Dr. Isaac Onoja Jonathan, a security consultant. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning.
Pleasure to have you. Janice?
Yeah, so gentlemen, you're welcome once again. And we have heard, just last week, the whole of the north, like 17 states, thrown into total darkness as a result of, this vandalism and all that stuff. So do you have an estimate or statistics of the happenings of these, the situation of power installation in Nigeria? What is the state of power installation?
Well, from my estimation, a number of facilities that give us power in this country have gone down due to activities of vandals, criminal elements generally, also due to environmental issues. I don't have my fingers on the exact number of things, but from the intro here now, between 2022 and now, tons of these equipment have gone down, costing the nation billions of naira. The issue is that these installations are Nigerian installations. They belong to us, right from generation, then to distribution. You find a state like Niger State, it has Kainji, it has Shiroro. What the state of security in Niger State is not pleasant. And so the chance of these things going down, being affected by activities of vandals, criminal elements, are high in Niger State and also in Jeba in Kwara State. Okay. The exact figures are for statisticians to tell us what has happened, but everybody is experiencing it, not just in North Central or Northwest or Northern State of Nigeria. The entire nation has been experiencing shutdown in electricity distribution and services to them.
Well, I only asked you that because I know the best people to have answered that would have been the TCN officials. They would have the statistics, but all efforts to get them, have not been successful. But let's look at the act of vandalism of power installations now. What would you compare? Would you say that it has increased compared to maybe last 5-6 years?
Well, it has. Now, the nation has been experiencing a lot of insecurity in the past 10 years. And the insecurity brings along with it a number of consequences, one of which is attacks on critical infrastructure or trophy institutions like power. The states involved, the 3 states I mentioned, 2 states I mentioned, Niger in particular, and then Kwara. Kwara, we don't have so much problem about that. But vandalism of such infrastructure does not stop in those 2 states. You have these power lines all over Nigeria, sited in bushes, inaccessible areas, inaccessible in quotes, because there are those who access them. Those vandals who go there access them. There are hunters who go to those areas. There are farmers in that locality. But of recent, the tempo has increased due to, it could be disenchantment, it could be revenge against the system. Nigerians have been facing power failure for many years. People are disgruntled about the system. And maybe giving it back to them one way, maybe catharsis for somebody, a way of showing anger. It could be that. So Nigerians are angry, I don't know. They become angrier in the last few years. So the tendency to vent such adrenaline on government institutions, the tendency is there. Insecurity has also increased. So in the last few years, yes, the ante has increased quite regrettably, but we need to do something about them.
But yes, something needs to be done about them. Let's quickly, our Zoom guest is ready. I hear Dr. Yahuza Getso. He's the Managing Director, Eagle Integrated Security and Logistics Company Limited here in Abuja. He's a security intelligence and investigation expert, community-driven development, political and diplomatic analyst. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria. We'll get to you when I speak with Dr. Isaac Onoja Jonathan. Dr. Isaac, safeguarding power installation in Nigeria is crucial to ensure reliable power supply to the people. I would like you to give us an estimate, a general outlook of what you think, is happening in the power sector now. Just a general outlook of what you think as an expert, a security expert.
All right, thank you so much for having me. And once again, good morning to Nigerians. Taking an overview of the power sector, a country where over 29 billion has been expanded on power sector, not just only for installations, but for renovations and replacement of already vandalized either armored cables, vandalized transformers, vandalized pipelines, and all of that. It gets to tells you that the people too, the host community, Nigerians, are not truly playing their part in the definition of what we call community policing. A situation, a centralized arrangement where the community plays a part, because most times those that perpetrate this evil lives with them, and largely the victims of these evils are either people that live in the same locality with these people. They may know them, they have their identities, they speak with them, but still they're not able to expose them. And so it gets to tell that Nigeria, as a people too, Nigerians as a citizens also have this arrangement that I can say that there is a core, it's a co-plotting within the vandals and also the communities.
A sabotage.
It's a sabotage. So we would define that from the meter tempering. Nigerians today take statistics and go to the localities, take statistics of the meters they have. Some are there, they are not functioning. That is another vandals. That's another sabotage, trying to undermine the effectiveness of the government's electrical materials. You know, you tamper with meters. So we have to even start from defining the roles of Nigerians and all of that. And then it's even experts in those sectors that go around to do that. Now, we can't talk about vendors without talking about the bad eggs also in the electricity sector. Because why? For you to successfully go up, you know, take cables and do all of that, you need an expert in that line to guide you through. You understand? Because I'm saying this from the confessions of some other persons that have been arrested in the past, how some officials were even part of this arrangement or these activities. From the statistics so far, like my brother said, rightly said, we will need TCN to give us the definite positions of what we have lost.
Actually, we invited them, but unfortunately,
oh, fine. No,
they are supposed to be part of
they ought to be here in such a crucial, you know, discussion that has to do with the nation, because everybody, you know, lives virtually with power. You need power to do anything. When it goes down in Nyanya, in FCT, in Gwagwalada, everybody is feeling it. You understand? And considering the weather now, everybody needs it. For productivity, we need it. For anything you want to talk about in this country, you need power. So if we are talking about such a very crucial infrastructure, I think Nigerians are people that we should even invite in this. If you throw this discussion open and say, Nigerians, please come and tell us what you feel about Nigeria's power, your studio will be filled up. People will trip in because everybody has a take on this. But then I want to say that Nigerians should please, as a matter of civil responsibility, you know, come up with the protections, disseminating information, intelligence to appropriate authorities, how we can safeguard these properties. And I will say this, that in advanced country today, having taken statistics and carrying out the research on incidents of attacks, vandalism, and all of that, they have come up with methodologies. They have come up with new systems, new technicalities of how to monitor these installations. I will tell you, for instance, our network providers. I don't want to mention anyone, whether it is Glo, NTA, or NTA, all of that. But then they have come to a system where if any of their poles go down today, it automatically triggers down to their office. It triggers down to their office to say, oh, one of this is down, one of this server is down. You understand? Now, today you will be surprised that cables are vandalized, what they call the transformers are vandalized. 2-1 weeks, you'll be surprised that when you go to these guys, they will tell you, we're not even aware. It shows that we are, you know, we are going backward, because while development is coming, I know new initiatives has to come along to see how we can monitor some of those things, you know, place either cameras on all of these things, or carry out a surveillance system should be attached to some of those. Because if you value those systems, if you value those infrastructures, then we should be able to add to rates to be able to complement it and safeguard it. So if we don't have all of these gadgets to protect it, then there are other things that is coming up now. Now, if you travel around with the West, you see the way their meters, their transformers have been placed. Since the ones down are easily vandalized, they don't run anything on grounds again. They don't run anything on grounds. You will see it up there where everybody is seeing it, and it will take you, you know, to get. You need a lot of logistics to go and vandalize. Why? Because before you travel to that length, before you travel up there, before you know, all of these things, you have to do so many things before you are able to have access into the brain boards. But today, we still go to places where we have open transformers, open cables, and people can access it at ease. Why we talked about, why we call on the host communities to place be able to identify those that are threat amongst them, because what they do is that if you allow those guys to vandalize, these things, you and your families become victims of his actions. And so we should be able to report it. But that again has to do with our first respondent. When they are arrested, definitely they may have, like they said, it's 5 years. That is what it is, 5 years jail term. If you are caught in all of this, how many of these people have been prosecuted for the 5 years jail term? And they go back to the police station, they're either being released or they have an ADR and say, come on, I'm going to restore it, and then they come back. Those are reported at the target nest. Oh, you're the one that make this report known to the people. They come back after you, and so the community also, they have not brought a centralized system where I can sit at my comfort and say, I send a text code or to susu number to see that there's vandalism ongoing here, and maybe like in the next 30 minutes or 15 minutes there's a response to that effect. So all of these things are not being done. They want me to physically go and tell them that Mr. A is the one vandalizing these things. At the end of the day, they go and call meeting in the chief palace and say, who does this thing? You are expecting me to endanger the life of my wife, my children, and say I am the one that saw them doing this. So they have to come up with innovations to allow Nigerians complement their actions.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Jonathan, for your opening contribution there. You talked about the role of community initiatives in safeguarding power installation in this country, which is very, very vital. But I'll still take you up on that because, there are issues where, people who vandalize, they go through a lot. But let's call in our Zoom guest, Dr. Yahuza Ahmed Getso. And a lot have been said here in the studio by our guest here. They talked about the role of the community and the role of individual. But can you just give us your perspective of the situation right now, and what can be done? How can we safeguard our installation?
Good morning, viewers. Good morning, everybody there. Actually, there are 7 things that need to be done quickly. One, there is need to do a lot of study in respect to root cause analysis. What has really been the reasons why all this vandalization has been taking place. Secondly, we need to invest a lot into technology to ensure that we capture each and every trunk of the power installed. And thirdly, we need to have a kind of a community-driven approach whereby community engagement will be improved. And fourth, we need to also find a monitoring and tracking system that can help us to easily mitigate from where we are to where we're supposed to be. And number 5, we need to have a kind of interwoven system whereby there is somebody is being held accountable and responsible, because these trunks have been installed across all the ward heads, all the village heads, and all the geographical locations of the political wards and the polling units. So we need to identify we need to hold someone accountable. And there should be a kind of coordination mechanism between the community leaders, the philanthropists, as well as the security agencies working around that area. And number 6, we need to have a feedback mechanism whereby we will always have a feedback or way of generating feedback where we can be generating information and moving forward in respect to the issues, based on the issues found. And finally, yes, of course, those who have been found wanting need to be dealt with, so that can serve as a deterrent for others to take lessons and for others to be careful. So if I think these 7 items can be proactively utilized, definitely we are going to be somewhere else. We are going to be a better to safeguard these facilities, because these facilities are installed within the communities. within the polling unit geography, within the political watch geography, within the local government geography, within the state assembly geography, within the national assembly geography, the representative geography, and within the senatorial geography. So the senators should go and coordinate with their communities and work as a tree between the security agencies, the community, the political and administrative leadership. And at the same time, the TCN or the whosoever who are the authority, they need to also reconnect and understand how do they relate with the community. And those community leaders and those community, the security, the vigilante, the hunters, the forest marshal, and all those who are engaged and who are involved in managing the security and managing the intelligence and generating the intelligence need to be worked interwovenly to ensure that information is being floated, is being generated from bottom to top and from top to bottom to have a feedback. And at the same time, we must have a system, we must invest seriously, hugely into technology so that we can be able to fast track. Like one of the speakers in the studio is talking that referring to the service network, whereby if you have MTN, Airtel, Etisalat, and the rest of them, if they have any problem with any of their masts out there in any of the community, no matter how far it is, they normally understand where do we have a problem. So they have a connection, and they have even trained their guards at the respective areas where they are mining, who are guarding the mast. They have given them some technical capacity, some technical ability to know how to fix ABCD and guide them through the phone call. So why can't we do the same? If somebody will come from South Africa or from any other part of the world to come and make an investment in our country and know how to manage his or her or their investment, why can't we invest into technology and do the same thing? Why can't we drive from that? Why can't we borrow their idea? And why can't we improve? All these facilities have been installed in the respective communities, within the surrounding of the polling unit, within the surrounding of the political watch, within the surrounding of local government. So why can't we start holding the local government chairman accountable? Why can't we have a legislation, even if we don't have it? Why can't we check that each and every facility or equipment being installed by any federal institution, the local government chairman, the divisional police officers, the local security officers who are the representative of the DSS, the NDLE and all of them, the joint task force that we have in almost all the 777 local governments, or rather, if we don't have it, we should have it, who can always be providing information and generating the information so that while we are using the technological innovation, we also use the human innovation, we also use the human network, we build a tree of understanding, and we build the tree of cooperation between the community-based approach, security approach, which is the village vigilante group, Nigerian Hunters Association, Forest Marshal, and all other vigilantes that we have to interwovenly work with our security agencies. Why do we have the divisional police officers? Why do we have the local security officers? Why do we have the federal road safety? All of them, they are working around the clock, and they are working covering the local government, covering the polling unit geographical terrain, covering the political watch. So why can't we interwovenly cooperate and kind of use a community-driven approach? It is very easy. It's only that if we can have a new leadership style. We have discussed this at on one of the national and international media. I know I made this option, and I have written to the TCN, and I have written to the Ministry of Power that there is need to have a system tracking. We need to invest huge into the technology so that we can identify and understand which of the mass or which of the trunk is having a problem, and how do we reach out to that.
Very much, Dr. Getso, for your opening remarks there. You have actually highlighted a lot of points here, which the guests in the studio have also talked about. The issue of, leveraging on technology, to enhance security and monitoring of the installation. I remember that last week we talked about this issue, and one of the guests, that was here talked about the issue that in the past, when it was NEPA then, they used this helicopter monitoring system. They had helicopter that will monitor the various installation, but that has changed now. What they have now is they make use of drones, drones to monitor the various installations across the country. Unfortunately, like we said, the TCN officials that would have given us, and okay, they were supposed to come to give us, a brief of all these are not available. But would you say, I'm talking to retired Commissioner Emmanuel Ojukwu now. I mean, from all that have been said, are we leveraging enough on technology to monitor these various installations?
Okay, well, we are well aware that Nigeria is a developing country. Many things are developing, including use and access to technology. We are still very slow. The one we know is about phones now, but other gadgets, key gadgets, we need to protect our key infrastructure. We are still very slow on that. Drones can be deployed very easily. They are quite expensive, but we have spent so much money repairing damaged infrastructure. Even less money could have been used to prevent this vandalism and attacks on our infrastructure. We are not leveraged properly into technology. It's still growing. But somebody should be held accountable for that. Besides, there should be proper scanning of the issue. We've not properly sat down to discuss and to understand why we are having grid failure. I think 105 times somebody said so in the last 10 years, costing billions of naira and all that. Why has it been happening? We need to sit down to scan this problem, diagnose it, and then proffer solutions. One of those solutions will be an increased use of technology. There are other solutions, other alternatives. My friends here have mentioned community engagement. Let us ask ourselves the question: who owns TCN? Is it Nigeria? Or is it a company? Who owns the discos, the gencos, as the case may be? We have moved from ECN, Electricity Corporation of Nigeria, to NEPA, to Power Holding, to this. These are cosmetic changes. Who actually owns them? If Nigerians believe that they own this system, or these systems, and their money is one being used to put them in place and to repair them whenever they are broken down, whenever they break down, or somebody vandalizes them. If we have a sense of ownership that this system belongs to us, and that we are the ones losing anytime they go down, and we are the ones to gain if the system is operating top-notch, there may be greater involvement of citizens in protecting the infrastructure. Technology only aids, but the real operators, the real owners have to own it and then safeguard it with the last pint of their blood. That has been lacking. I had a jingle just a few minutes ago about federal government warning vandals. That is jackboot technology. You are warning those who are not listening. Some people are hurting. Some people see Power Holding Company, AEDC, all the discos as enemies, stopping them from watching football when they want to watch football, stopping them from watching their favorite movies, stopping them from blending even tomato or to power their farm. The weather is hot. So they see them as enemy. We need to reorientate the minds of Nigerians that these facilities are yours, and that together we should make efforts to improve the generation, distribution, and then actual use. My friend had mentioned about stealing electricity. It's electricity theft. It is a criminal offense. Do people know? They think it's their own cut of national cake to do what they call bypass. Some think it's a part of the national cake. Because those upstairs are taking the cake as if it belongs to them. We need to also do a reorientation of the minds of Nigerians on creating critical infrastructure, not just power, even water, and even roads. People call the roads anyhow, thinking it's government road. Who is government, for God's sake? It is Nigerians are the government. Because they own the facilities, it's their money that's being used. The roads are being made for them. The power lines are meant for Nigerians. Once we have this sense of ownership, and that any vandalism of it or attack on it is an attack on me, we'll be able to protect them. I know some time ago I was in River State in an operation, and some communities were very angry about an oil installation. And they were planning to go and do some damage. I said, no, if you touch it, you've touched me. There has been what concerns me. I said, NNPC belongs to Nigeria, so it belongs to me. If you touch it, you touch me, and I'm going to fight you. So they would, when they were shocked that I was claiming ownership of an oil installation. If we have that sense of ownership, and we're able to activate ourselves to protect our own, technology will help us. Technology is used by people. If people feel bad about the system, they will still not make technology to work.
You have talked so much about, community-based initiative, but how do you engage the community? Because that is the most important thing. You just put an installation in my street, and I'll just see you. I mean, it's your property, but you didn't call the community to talk to them. You didn't educate the people on how they can protect it. So you cannot blame actually the community. So how do we begin to engage the community to make them aware that this actually is their responsibility?
Okay. Part of it is ab initio. When you want to install an infrastructure, carry the community along. You do a mapping of the area. Who are those that originally own this land? Now, if you put a power line on my street, they say the EDC or whatever now has right of way. I've been denied access to it. Sometimes by force, sometimes no compensation is paid. The community, before these things are installed, have to be carried along. Let them have an understanding that this is to service you, make you have light, make you have this. It's in your own interest. And if somebody is hurting, settle him, negotiate with him. People must be pacified. It's not that it's a land use act, I have right of way, government will just take somebody's land, somebody will be hurting. And it may tend to sabotage it. Part of carrying them along is at the initial stage, get them probably sensitized that this thing is for their good. And if it goes down, if a tower collapses, people may die within the community. Do they understand that? If they understand that if it collapses, they may die in the process, they may protect it. But when nobody talks to them, you use what they call the federal might, land use, whatever. You take over the place, they put it there. It is now we versus them. It is your property, not my property. For you to get them involved, you must get them involved from day one. And for you to get them involved from day one, you need to understand the community you are putting the things. Different communities have different needs. You can do corporate social responsibility. This line will pass through here, will give you water, will give you so as compensation. You must factor this in because various communities have different needs, have different attitudes, have different cultures and traditions. This is must be factored in as you make these facilities pass within the community, whether underground or overhead. Whether it's overhead or underground, that area belongs to somebody. You must carry him along before you do that. And they will help you put an eye on it because it is their property.
Okay, all right. Do you mind?
Okay. We've been talking about security of securing and safeguarding installations. Now that brings us to the issue of aging infrastructure, lack of maintenance and inspection, inadequate training for staff of, the TCN maintaining these infrastructures. And, vandals target power plants for valuable components like iron, like copper, and they take it into the black market. We've been talking about safeguarding, we've been talking about arrests. We've not seen any high-profile arrest in any of this vandalism of these installations. it is the foot soldiers that get there. Have we ever bothered as a country to find out who sent them to do this? You talked about the community should be involved in it all, and they are part of the community, but there must be the shadow backers to this vandalism of this installation. What do you think government needs to do? Because people are saying there should be a stronger legislation. 5 years is not enough.
All right, thank you. And first, before I answer your questions, I want to thank my very senior friend here, Mr. Joku, and also Dr. Getso for his input on this discussion. You see, while he was speaking, I was just smiling, and it's just like I won a trophy, right? Yes, the essence of this is because our mindset, we are speaking the mindset of Nigerians, we're speaking the mind of Nigerians. And it that shows that we are speaking from the facts on ground. You understand? Before today, I never met with the commissioner, and I have not spoken to Dr. Getso, even though we are friends. I have not spoken to him that I'm coming to NTA, good morning. But today, our mindset and our discussion centers on all we are saying, technology, advancement, community engagement, the roles of Nigerians, and also the need for TCN to bring further understandings and all of that into the job. Well, it then means that whatever we say today here, whatever we discuss here should be taken, not just like a discussion, but should be taken as recommendations for the way forward. Now, coming back to your questions, a lot has to be done because we've talked about the security, the community engagement, the 5 years J10. Some said it's not enough. This is, to me, not the problem. The problem is how to leverage on the weaknesses of some of these guys to improve on their strength. TCN has a strength, and that strength is about development. It's about understanding. It's about new innovations.
Adequate training.
Adequate trainings you've talked about. We mean that the need to bring in concepts from developed countries, how they have been able to manage issues of this nature, theft of this nature. And in doing that, we need not just to do only with their staff, but we need to bring those that have been empowered to manage issues that has to do with vandalism. And that has to do with the NSCDC. Because we've been talking about security, we've not talked about, point out those that have been responsible, have been, been given that power to protect. So in managing and training their staff, they need to bring the body that is so responsible in protecting that. And in that training, what they need to do, they have to carry out preparatory, protection, and prevention. These three things, this is the thing that is going to come up with the concept of the training. While you are carrying out, these trainings, call on your staff, call on the agencies that is involved, the sole responsibility of the protection of these properties. Say, come on, for us to be successful in safeguarding these things, you need to first understand preparations. Preparatory in the sense that in an event that this happened, what do we do? How do we respond to it? You have to know. What modes have you set up in the community that will be your eyes? You have to set up modes. Even the police does that. You don't even know who gives you the information. You are here, and then they are there. So you need to set up modes that will operate within the community. They'll blend with you. They do everything, whereas they works for TCN. How many modes have TCN be able to, create in the communities, in the host communities? That is one. Now they have to talk about the prevention. Prevention in the sense that these things, while we are talking about technology, they can gradually come with sheets around these cables, around these transformers, around these pipelines. If they're able to cast sheet on those things, hardly before you break those sheets and then have access to, to the distance. Even though that may not end it, it may reduce it to the very minimum. You understand? Now, I said something. Why am I talking about innovations, technology? Today, you don't have any wire linked to my house. No cable linked to my house. But my children, or I may have gone to school, my wife may be watching me from my office. There's no cable you've linked to my house from your studio, but you have just the television, and because you have the decoder and all of that, just that single, that dish and the decoder, you have access to NTA. And so it is that you don't have anything linked to your phone. You don't have anywhere linked to your phone, but with your SIM card, which to me replace also the aspect of the meter, have taken over all of that. So in the years to come, I think TCN will be able to bring innovations that you will not even see pipelines, you will not see wires, you will not see cables on the street, but you have light in your house. Do you understand? Just all you need to do is that you have the meter, and once you are metered, your house is metered, and all the necessary installations are done. You can have access to it without even a wire. So if you can go to the market, buy television set and place in our house, and all we need to do is the cable, is the dish and the decoder, which already serve like you said, the meter. You have light. So the time will come that we don't need to, populate the street with cables, with transformers and all of that. So these are also part of technology that may, unfold, that will come in the nearest future. But for now, we should be able to stop these things or reduce it to the barest minimum. And that's why I say the training which we have talked about have to, cover these three aspects: the preparatory, the prevention, and the protection. If these three aspects is covered, having the lead agency that is expected to protect these things or stop vandalism, which is the NSCDC, then it will make it, because whatever you do, you have to bring them, to the center. You have to discuss with them, and then the monitoring unit, which we have talked about earlier, they have to form perhaps a JTF in that regards, a monitoring unit that is going to deal with anything vandalism. While we know that there are other agros, other aspects of the NSCDCs that is in charge doing other operational duties, the NSCDC have to come up with a template of monitoring, arresting and all of that, detecting. But if we will not hold them accountable, go to the Niger Delta, a lot of vandalism is ongoing. Now come to the Federal Capital Territory and even part of the North, vandalism have taken over the places. So it shows that there's a lacuna, there's the weakness on the part of the lead agency, the TCN, and it shows that they need a lot of orientation to meet up with modern technology and technicalities, how to strategize these things and work effectively without compromising, calling on Mr. A or Mr. B. Then finally, before these transformers or whatever these cables are placed in community, we have to actually discuss that aspect, like Dr. Getsu talked about, that we should talk about the senator, the local government, which is fantastic. But then these transformers are not just installed in isolation. Before these transformers are even installed, I will even surprise you that, do you know that some communities donate money?
Yeah, of course.
Some communities donate money to buy, transformers. Some communities, either the philanthropists will just come and then buy and donate to them. So they are aware that these transformers belongs to us. They are aware that power belongs to us, that's one of the things that belongs to us. You understand? So that they are not aware, to me, I humbly disagree. They are much aware, but it is the sensitization, the tete-a-tete that the TCN has not had with the community. The only time you see TCN or you see their staff is when they are coming to either collect the bills or supply bills. That is what
or when they want to come and disconnect.
That's what I mean, disconnect or they reconnect, or when they are coming to serve you the bill. So for those that are using the what they call not using prepared meters. So to me, if TCN leverage on modern technology and having understanding of how other developed countries have been able to solve these problems in the past, we will not be here discussing these things.
Okay, you said a lot. I mean, there is need, just like Mr. Ojugu said, for TCN to actually engage the community? Because there is no way that you just install maybe transformer or anything there and the community will just walk in there when you have not actually called them in and let them know. So there is need for to create the proper awareness.
There's need, and I'm aware of the need, because in my local community we are
to create the necessary awareness and to call them like a round table.
Even the chief palace, these things are always done there in the local areas, the localities, even where I live.
Engaging the traditional,
rulers are always
and
aware.
The community leaders.
Exactly.
In the area.
They are aware. They are much aware.
Okay, let's go back to Dr. Getso now, Zoom guest. Dr. Getso, earlier on you talked about the issue of system tracking, issue of legislation, and the safeguarding power installation. So would you say that? Or let's look at what laws and regulations are in place. Do you think are in place do you think we have enough legislation to protect our power installation? And if not, how do we strengthen the legislation?
Well, I think we have those legislations. Probably, maybe Nigerians need to be resensitized in collaboration, in partnership and collaboration between the state assemblies and the National Assembly to sensitize, to go around and conduct kind of town hall meetings. They should hold their personnel who are working around the clock to be held accountable to present a minute of meeting with the communities at the macro level, at the micro level, at the local government ward polling units levels, and at the National Assembly constituency level, the Senate constituency level, to have meet and look at what are really the best mitigating factors. Even if we don't have those legislations, which I'm doubtful that we don't have them. We have those legislations, but all we need is to hold someone accountable. One, to sensitize the community for them to be informed about those legislations. Three, we need to be apprehending, we need to be prosecuting people who are found wanting and be dealing with them irrespective of any political inclination or any relationship with Mr. A or Mr. B. And four, we need to look at the outlook of the security sphere and the political and social sphere of our respective communities. And I'm re-emphasizing the need to have a more interwoven relationship between the community-based security approach and the formal security approach, at the same time with community-based organizations or community-based structures, to come up with a strategic action plan. But we must be ready to invest hugely on technology. We have the capacity, and we can do it, and we have the ability, and we have the agile use. And at the same time, I'm also with the view that we can kind of organize a use volunteers at the respective polling unit, that is power use volunteers at the polling unit, at the political ward, at the local government, and so on. So let's have those legislations if we don't have them. If we have them, let's strengthen them. And if while strengthening them, we also need to engage all the stakeholders, the political stakeholders, the administrative stakeholders, the security stakeholders, the community-based security stakeholders. I'm re-emphasizing on the need to have a serious engagement with the forest marshal, serious engagement with the vigilante groups, serious engagement with other civil intelligence formations, which are non-formal, and also to have it have collaborative and partnership with the formal system, and to sensitize the AEDC, the National Orientation Agency, and the Ministry of Information and whatever need to work hard on how to resensitize people based on Nigeria's social and geographical outlook, and at the same time to have focus on rebuilding the patriotic mindset and reorientation on property ownership. Because nobody can go to any of those trunks and untie it within seconds. It will take you a long time for you to be able to take it. And at the same time, those ions and those wires are being taken to what do you call them, Babambola or whatever, whichever name we give them. So there is need for our intelligence. If we don't have a legislation, our legislators need to work hard to come up with a legislative strategy for which the DSS and other intelligence formations will be checking closely those scrap metal traders, those scrap metal network, and there is need to have a strong alliance between the AEDC, the security formations, and those scrap metals alliances groups, because they are contributing seriously. Those who are vandalizing those properties, when they vandalize them, they stole them, they take them to these guys, and nobody is monitoring, nobody is doing anything. So if we have the legislation, let's strengthen it. Let's have a town hall meeting at all the polling units, all the political works, or the AEDC, or the KETCO, or whatever you have, JESCO. They all have public relation officers. Those public relation officers, they engage. They should come up with a strategic way of re-engaging the community on conducting town hall meetings to build the ownership tree for the communities to understand that these properties are not belong to federal government. They are neither belong to the state government, neither belong to the local government, or belong to the local government chairman or councillor, or member state assembly, or member house of national assembly, or a senator. But it's our properties. Everybody knows how much we have lost economically in northern Nigeria for this 9 days power outage. So why can't we have, since we have this feeling, let's each and every Nigerian at every level, let the public relations officers take it up. Let them sensitize and work hard and re-sensitize the communities on community-driven approach, whereby it will be community-driven, community-initiated, community-owned, and community-sustained. So let the community be held responsible and let them hold themselves accountable. And let the legislation be a process of bottom-top approach. Let those discussions, those town hall meetings that will take place at the polling units, at the local government, at the ward level, at the federal constituency and senatorial constituency, let them have a feedback mechanism. Those feedback put together, conduct a root cause analysis, share a feedback on those root cause analysis with those community members, and take it up to the state assemblies and the National Assembly, and then let National Orientation Agency and Minister of Information stand up to its toes and do the needful and ensure that there is an active collaborative tree that will involve the community-based security formations, the community philanthropists, community-based civil organizations, and the AEDC, JESCO, KETCO, whatever, LESCO, whatever you have in all the respective communities. Unless the National Assembly and National Orientation Agency, as well as the Minister of Information, find a way of providing feedback and having inputs from those youth volunteers that I mentioned earlier, let them be providing a feedback, and let them also be providing feedback. Let the government be providing feedback to them. So let's have the ownership mindset, because what we believe now is that it belongs to AEDC. It belongs to TCN. You will be surprised. You will see a professor from university. You will see a director at the state or federal level. You will see a philanthropist who owns a shop that have a supermarket that have the value of capital of 10 million or more. They will see people walking around. They will see people going onto the post. Nobody asks, who are you? Why is your identity? Why are you in our area? How do we identify? So we only allow them to come and disconnect and connect. We don't have an interwoven relationship. We don't checkmate who are you, where do you come from, who authorized you to come here, where is your ID card? And those youth volunteers must be re-engaged and kind of have interwoven administrative management strategy on how to manage those transformers, on how to manage those electricity trunks, on how to manage A, B, C, D, E, F, G, so that it will be a kind of community-based approach. So community will own the process, while government will own the system, while the TCN will own the operations. And then the legislation as well as the other line ministries who are responsible and who are stakeholders into the system will also be held accountable. So you can see that I'm happy.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Getso, for your contribution there. You have made your point, and the need for us to have these ownership mindsets. The community must have these ownership mindsets, and that's point has actually been emphasized here today, but how to engage the community is the most important thing. But when we come back, we'll look at the various sanctions, if the sanctions are actually adequate, to checkmate all these vandals. Stay with us. We'll take a break now.
You're welcome back to Good Morning Nigeria. We're still discussing safeguarding power installation in Nigeria, and our guests are still seated here in the studio. They brought up some issues, that can be a solution to the safeguarding these installations. Now, let's come back to the studio here now. Mr. Ojukwu, retired police commissioner. There's a troubling trend that organized labor, way beyond the normal thieves that go and vandalize these structures, organized labor have infiltrated the power sector itself, and that's why we have a surge in attack, because they are so organized and they are actually using technology to know if there are people there who are guarding the installations much more than the power sector itself. They have more money to go around and do that, even cohese the communities to be able to support them at times, because corruption is everywhere. It's not just in the offices. Corruption is all over the country, and the lack of security around this installation is increasing the collapse of the power grid, because once you touch one tower, almost 20 towers goes with it. And we've been talking about using of technology, using of drone and all that. Are we saying here that the power holding companies, that the TCN does not have the wherewithal, the money they need to be able to purchase these security apparatus to be able to safeguard our power installations in the country? Is their hands held tight? Is there any bottleneck that stops it from happening? Or do they just not care?
Well, apparently, I won't say they don't care. Maybe somebody has not made them to care. Because when Nigeria devolved its assets to TCN managed transmission. Somebody manages generation. Somebody manages distribution. It should be held to account to Nigerians. What have you done? Because these are millions, billions or trillions of naira worth of equipment and infrastructure given to you to manage. If somebody is not held to account, he gets into impunity. You think there's immunity for his impunity, which shouldn't be so. Now there's a syndicate. You referred to it earlier on. A syndicate. There are sellers, there are buyers.
There are steps ahead.
Well, there could be steps ahead, but we can always get them. If proper things are done. Now somebody knows, even within the system, knows where these installations are. And somebody within the system knows the security arrangement within the installations. Where they have barbed wire, where they have booby traps, where they have things that could deter somebody from coming, where they have issues that may delay somebody having access to them, where they have things that may deny somebody access to these facilities. Somebody within the system knows where these things are there. And somebody within the system may fail to do what he ought to do to deny access, deter, or even to make sure that any vandalism is detected There's always the man aspect in every production. Apart from these machines we're talking about now, money, time, and all that, the man aspect is the most critical. Issue of sabotage is there. There are always what they call constructive stealing within the system. Someone within the system knows these leakages, or someone within the system prepares grounds for the leakages. And then someone within the system informs an outsider, part of the syndicate, you can go here. Don't go there. You can go here. Now, when he does that, he brings down a knot, brings down a tower, brings down a transformer, removes the oil. There's somebody who will transport it to somebody who will receive it. That is syndicate. We can break that syndicate by having proper intelligence, by having a background check of those who are working in the system, removing the bad eggs, so to speak. Can find the egg and eat the egg. Just remove them so a system can flow properly. We have somebody else to do that. It requires intelligence. And then if there are no receivers, these thefts will not go on. Somebody is there who receives them. So this kind of things are there's a network of perpetrators. There are even cannon foders. There are foot soldiers they use to get these things done. There are also the corruptors who make sure that if something is done, they settle the matter before it gets to the law courts. Then there are those who receive. If you can break that chain, we may go a long way.
So what's the role of the civil defense here? Because they are supposed to safeguard national, what is the role of the civil defense, in safeguarding these installations? Where are they when it happens? That's the million-dollar question we need to begin to ask.
We have to answer that.
Yes.
That's like just recruiting a civil defense corps. But I worked in the police for 32 years. And I know that there's no law that stops police from preventing any crime anywhere in Nigeria, irrespective of whatever law that created civil defense or road safety or whatever. No law has stopped police from preventing crimes. And I don't know if the police gets good information, good time. Sometime in one promo I had here, if you see something, say something. To whom do you say it? You must say it to the correct person, not the wrong person. You see something, you discover about it in a hairdresser salon or barber salon or a drinking spot. You've said nothing to nobody actually. Say it to the proper person. I don't know of any law enforcement officer who is worth his onions that will get such an information that a public infrastructure like power line or transformer or pipeline for oil or a gas pipeline that we use for thermal generation of electricity is being vandalized and will turn a blind eye. Such a person is a saboteur, and the system, the police that I know, will deal with him appropriately. I don't know about civil defense, but I do know, I believe they have systems of checking the officers in what they do or what they do not do.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Emmanuel Ojukwu, former retired Commissioner of Police. Let's come to Dr. Jonathan now. We've talked about the issue of transparency and accountability in this our power sector, which we all know that is lacking generally. You have said it. And you talked about the issue of, information sharing now, that people don't share information. You also mentioned it earlier, that when you see something, say something. But people hardly say something this day because of fear of being, attacked by these hoodlums. But there are some areas where we have these installations, hard to reach areas, where we really have the vandals. They have these sophisticated weapons. How do you expect maybe the local community to face, such people and all that? So there, just like he said, the police, even the military, they have a responsibility at safeguarding all these power installations. Do you think there is enough, information sharing, and and how do we get other, security, agencies to support in safeguarding this power installation?
Right. So what you're talking about now is about intelligence.
Yes.
Intelligence gathering, intelligence sharing, and all of that. For crime to happen, there must be a meeting point. There must be a resolution. There's a time they have agreed to carry out the crime, and all of that. It shows that we don't have intelligence in this part of the world. And I will cite an example to let you know, to back up these claims, because it may be a claims on our actions. But I will cite an example for you to understand the voice of reasoning. This is the Federal Capital Territory. This is where we have the almighty villa. This is where we have all the embassies, our diplomats. This is where we have all the agencies, the federal government agencies, our first respondent, the Civil Defense headquarters, the TCN headquarters. This is the Federal Capital Territory. The vandalism that even happened in the Federal Capital Territory is more because we have sophisticated cables in the Federal Capital Territory because of the populations and all that, compared to even the rural areas, the states and the local government in other states. Now, this is the Federal Capital Territory where all this mighty war college and all of that is situated. Yet, we have people move from point A to point B, move down to the Kuje prison, break into the facility, release inmates, even have the whole time to have prayer sections, give them transport and they go back. And then that means you can go and continue the evils. And we are talking about intelligence. And we are talking about leveraging on the use of technologies, where we as a people, we as a nation, we don't even have a 24-arm drones to monitor the activities of what happened in the Federal Capital Territory, the seat of power. And so you are talking about a less consigned TCN or NSCDC to use their money, their appropriations or whatever, to procure equipment that will be used to monitor, pipelines and all of that to stop vandalism.
That is how it's supposed to be.
Well, unfortunately, when the head is rotten, what do you expect of the body? So when we are talking about intelligence gathering, intelligence sharing, leveraging of technology on technologies and surveillance and all of that, we need to set an example. We need to set an example from the top to allow for others to take steps in that direction. If, for instance, Mr. A have come, we've had about contract that we awarded for mapping of the Federal Capital Territory. How effective has that gone? When we said, we're going to have cameras, drones around the Federal Capital Territory, somebody collected the money for that. Have they sufficiently mapped out the areas? And then some areas that they have fixed those cameras, somebody said they have collected the machines in those areas. The cameras are no longer working. Whose responsibility to protect that? Nobody's asking questions. Now, I'm going to tell you something. Let me shock you. The moment Nigerians learned that, there is this traffic light now, when you beat this traffic light, when you want to go and do renewal for your papers, the money will be, the thing will be there. So for that reason, so Nigerians begin to self-pedal. The level they beat traffic, when they come to the traffic, they become holier than thou. Few weeks later, when they come to understand the loopholes in that, they came to realize that you cannot use regional security to solve conventional insecurity. What that means is that when you beat traffic in Abuja, and perhaps your paper document, your license or your everything was done in Kano, and when you get to Kano, these things were not centralized to the system where they will say you beat traffic in Abuja, and so for that reason, that you did in Abuja has reflected. So when they got to know that after I did my paper in Jos or in Benue or in Lafia, so Lagos, nothing happened. So they have not been able to centralize those things to the system. So Nigeria begin to leverage on those weaknesses, and that has continued. And before we know, like guess to use the local, what we use in local palace, Bambula, they vandalized some of those things. Even the last protest, the end governance protest, we saw somebody breaking the traffic light. That is how that is how we have turned Nigerians to, to what would they call? Is that a banana republic to say? No, see. Me, I smile on some of those things because the solutions are just very there to the problems. But it's by the will power, the political power to do what is right. And that is why I cite the example of the intelligence the national security lacks. And so if at the national level we lack some of these things, come up. How do you want all of these things? If I'm the person as a father, I cannot sufficiently say I am doing what is right. How do I tongue lash my son? So it is when these things are done that you cannot hold accountable some of those sub-agencies, and then you cannot call for inter-agencies collaborations to bring about good intelligence and all of that.
Multi-stakeholder approach.
Of course.
But one question I need to ask you before we go to Dr. Getso as we begin to round off this program is there no control room where these installations are being monitored?
Like that, good, fantastic there. Now let me tell you something. I made a proposal to the Nigerian police when the brutality, the so-called brutality before the NSAS and all of that, the way they are killing suspects, and I said, okay, to solve these problems, we now need to sensitize Nigerians. But first, my dear police force, this is what we're going to do. Centralize all your divisions, your art stations, to the office of the Inspector General of Police, number one, to the control room of also the National Security Advisor. Unfortunately, the position of the National Security Advisor is not constitutional. And so nobody wants to say centralize this thing to his office. But then the one that is constitutional, even if it's on an appointment basis, which is the office of the Inspector General of Police, the office of all of these our traditional heads of the security institutions, send those things to it, because it is possible. If churches, mosques, and Nancy at their level can sit down at the headquarters and watch how services were done in other small of their branches, then talk more of a government institution that can easily centralize all of this. That means that Nigerians, once you get to any police station, you know what you do? Request that you must be questioned in the control room. So anything that is done outside the control room is illegal.
Okay.
So if that was done, then we can now say, okay, yes, we have gotten a step. So coming back to your questions, now if we have to have an approach of that magnitude where everything has to be centralized, then we need all of these gadgets to be interwoven. All of this approach has to be directed to a point before we can achieve it.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So let's bring in Dr. Getso now because of our time. Dr. Getso, I mean, we have spoken a lot about all these centralizing information and the role of interagency cooperation and all that. Earlier on, you talked about the need for us to have a proper sanction, adequate sanction, to deter, all these vandals. What do you think? What are you suggesting? What do you think is adequate?
Well, there are 5 things that should be adequate in dealing with that. 1, prosecution or setting or fixing our judicial imbalances or our judicial system, because our judicial system in Nigeria is in question. 2, checking and balancing of the personnel within the system to address the issues of internal sabotage and sabotage within, and negligence of duty on the part of the monitoring unit of the TCN or the entire Ministry of Power, as well as the intelligence formations itself. And number 3, we need to also have a system approach that will manage, at least manage. I'm not saying wipe the corruption, because I know the corruption have eaten us seriously, and we are diving into the river of corruption. So, but at least to have it managed. And number 4, to have improved synergy, collaboration and partnership between the scrap metal dealers, the intelligence, the power managers, as well as the federal institutions who are responsible in monitoring and providing those feedback. And finally, we need to kind of recheck the operating system that were used in the 80s, in the 90s. Why are these towers and trunks and other things, other installations, where have they been saved? And finally, we need to also check on the leadership quality. I'm talking on the leadership at the TCN. I'm talking on the leadership at the Ministry of Power. I'm talking on the leadership on the system of distribution, generation, and I'm talking on the leadership on the operations of the TCN and operations of all activities here and there. And at the same time, also looking inwards, how our intelligence is being generated, and either we are utilizing it or we are underutilizing it, or we don't even understand the situation entirely, or we are just holding information between agencies while trying to compute among one another. So I strongly believe that if these and some other issues that have been raised by my colleagues in the studio could be appropriately employed and
Okay, Dr. Getso, thank you so much. We've practically run out of time, and it's almost 8:56. Thank you so much for your contribution, Dr. Yehuza Getso, Managing Director, Eagle Integrated Security and Logistics Company Limited, Abuja, Security Intelligence and Investigation Expert, Community-Driven Development, Political and Diplomatic Analyst. Thank you so much for coming on the program this morning. Dr. Isaac Onoja Jonathan is a security consultant. We appreciate your input on the program. Emmanuel Ojukwu, retired police commissioner, we thank you so much. But before we go, in 30 seconds, experts say there should be a state of emergency on power. Do you agree? In 30 seconds.
Yeah, why not? Without power, we ain't going nowhere, as the Americans say. We can't generate power, we don't have means of production. Without power, we can't produce so many things in this country. Economy, any attack on power affects our economy adversely. And so we've had emergencies declared here and there, but how effective are they? The willpower to enforce that emergency and do what is needful and even act some heads should also be there. Otherwise, emergency will just be a paper tiger.
So heads must roll for us to get
they have to roll.
Okay, thank you so much, Emmanuel Ojukwu, retired police commissioner. Thank you so much for your contribution. And that's Good Morning Nigeria for today. Thanks for joining us. I am Juma Yusuf.
And I am Ademola Adeoye. Thanks for watching.